one, reduce silos. We hear that a lot, that people in our community are doing great things, but the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So we'll talk about the convenings that we have to bring those people together. We actually had one of those convenings this morning. Pastor Kirkwood was there. Thank you for the hand clap of praise. We had a good time. It's always great to be in this space with people who are really interested in learning and sharing their wisdom and their ideas and how we get better and get better at supporting the community. So, Deputy Director Williams is going to speak specifically to the convenings that we have, and I'll just start off with one of the things that we have that's not necessarily a convening, but how we have really focused on data. We surveyed about 65 nonprofit organizations, and the survey was very robust. We had to offer a little bit of an incentive from our partners with LISC in order for them to like sit down and take your lunch break and complete it. But what we were trying to get to is, what is it that your organization needs to be better? We've seen a lot of things just being in this space for a short period of time. For example, with working with the city of Memphis and the Safer Communities grants, we're looking at grant applications, and we're looking at how we can support those who are applying for applications, how we can support them with understanding that we're definitely interested in the outputs and the things that you're doing, but we also want to get to the point where we're really looking at those outcomes, like Darren shared before he left, just how do you capture the number of lives that you save because you intervened in a situation. So really working on data collection and just a lot of things that we're seeing. So we have partnered with the University of Memphis, and so we will start a session called 901 Power Lunch and Learn sessions, and those sessions will run from June 17th up into December. So they're monthly TA 90-minute lunch and learn sessions. They're held on the campus of University of Memphis by University of Memphis professors in the nonprofit school there. And so those sessions have been customized to fit the needs of exactly what our nonprofit organizations have told us that they needed help and support with. And so we're really proud to roll that out to organizations so that, again, we can continue to build capacity so that we can go after those dollars, whether they're state or federal, or even looking at how we are just better stewards of the funds that we have here in the city and county. When the organizations are stronger, they can capture the data, they can make the right moves that are based in evidence that have shown to be successful. When you can educate folks on those things, then we can see them happen in the community, and then we can see the positive impact on the other side. And so, Deputy Director Williams, I'll turn it over to you.
So all in that is getting the data and trying to make sure that the capacity building is moving forward for our nonprofits. But then also there's a different aspect of the joint office as the convener of your managers, of your boots on the ground, and of your leadership. And so we have 3 convenings that we're going to focus on. There are a couple others, but these for today will make a little synergy for you around how all of this actually works in what we call an ecosystem. So Safer Memphis 365 is a countywide initiative that we've hosted twice so far. The next one will be in June. It will be virtual. This is a convening for solution-oriented thinking. So anyone who has a willingness to work in the space collaboratively about public safety from a community lens is welcome to come. We know we have these convenings where there's a lot of challenges that are thrown out. There's a lot of, hey, I would like to do this. My organization can do all of these things. But we're challenging organizations, businesses, and individuals to think about the collective whole. And so we have 5 different community-led projects that should come out of there, which run from DV all the way to gang and group violence, youth empowerment. I know I'm missing 2. Gun safety and education, and neighborhoods, safer neighborhoods for us by us. And so one of the things that we want people to understand is that we know traditionally in the past, government has had a plan, community has had a plan, but what does that look like for us to have a plan together? And so everything that the joint office does is community driven plus government. And so this plan will actually impact our strategic plan that will be coming forth and it'll be a 5-year plan that will build out of that. And so from Safer Memphis 365, you have a smaller convening of, hey, what did we learn from Safer Memphis that we can bring back to a smaller group, which we call Impact. The CVI, which is Community Violence Intervention Workspace. Those organizations that are usually targeting the highest risk individuals for services. There's a group, of course, in the larger ecosystem, which is all prevention. But when you're talking about the highest risk individuals and trying to make the impact stand within 1 to 3 years, that's where your intervention space is. And so we have a smaller group of probably about 12 to 15 organizations that are in there that are really truly doing the work of like reentry with Mr. Brown talked about. You have GVI, you have HVIP, which is the hospital violence intervention. You have crisis management. Director Brumley will talk about victim services. All of these things play a holistic approach for someone to be able to get what they need in various areas of the city. Doesn't matter where you live, you should be able to get those services or what you need without having to constantly go from hand to hand to hand to hand without knowing what's going to happen. So Impact is that smaller group. And then the last one is the Public Safety Task Force. The Public Safety Task Force was Mayor Young's initiative. And I should state that Impact was actually Mayor Harris's initiative. We took that meeting from him. He gave it to us. I feel like that. And then Mayor Young has graciously given us the task of running the Public Safety Task Force, which are your lawmakers, your leaders that are state and federal. And we come together on a quarterly basis to talk about the bigger things. How are now these Safer Memphis 365 community-driven solutions brought back to the impact group and now brought back to policymakers and people that can actually do something about it to change laws that we also see need to change. And then also, how can they advocate for us to be able to get the work done that we know the boots on the ground need? And so those three convenings are the ones that are most prevalent for us right now. There'll be a few new ones coming for some younger groups as well. But any questions you have, please feel free to ask.
I appreciate that. And when I hear you, I'm looking at the lens of that pyramid that was at the Crime Commission. We talked about the prevention, intervention, suppression.
Yeah.
So basically you are working within that pyramid, right? So you're looking at, so it's not just one thing. You're not just going after one, you're going after the whole pyramid through this work. And then working collectively with everybody citywide and putting them in their place where they stand.
But we stay in our lane now.
Okay.
So suppression is not the joint.
Suppression is not you. Yeah,
It's not the joint.
right. Right. Yeah. So the top two tiers. And so with that, how much? Because I hear some of this too within the lens of the Crime Commission. So do you all sit on the Crime Commission?
We attend the meetings. We are not on the board.
On the board there. And so so when you look at it, because they do some of the same, how much are y'all weighing in the legislative piece that they're doing, right? And then the public safety, how are y'all measuring what they come out with and then what you come out with? Is it that we're listening to the community, we're hearing something different, or do you see what y'all are saying is pretty much the same thing with the Crime Commission report and what you all looking to put in your?
So as those things actually come to fruition, especially July 1, with new legislation and things, I think the joint office's role is education.
Mm-hmm.
It's to actually educate nonprofits that are dealing with the highest risk individuals to know what you should know about the law that is coming down, right?
Yeah.
It should be to inform individuals and organizations on how you should proceed now, or how you can go and send your reentry clients straight to next door to the clerk's office to get the license.
Mm-hmm.
I think also it's for them to understand what processes look like, how long things could take.
Yeah.
And knowing that a lot of times everyone wants an immediate response or immediate resolution, but understanding more about government and how things work. It's even eye-opening for us to educate organizations and businesses on how the city has certain responsibilities and the county has certain responsibilities. So I think it's more of learning everyone and educating them on how we move forward now that these things are in place.
And I'll just share this, and I'll let anyone else who have a question to you all. So coming from a grassroots perspective, our organization that focus on mitigating adverse childhood experience, that's something that we may not see to the next generation, right? But those things are not pretty when it comes to politics, because a lot of times you don't bring that here, because we want to see some results now, right? 4 years, Charlie, we ain't gonna be here 10 years to see that child. But sadly, for me, I'm seeing the chicken coming home to roost, right? I see all of these things happening from what we were saying 10 years ago, when we were saying we needed to do something about the adverse community experiences and the childhood experiences that we saw. Thankfully, as we sit here today, and it's only by God divine, he's the director of reentry, and we did this work together. And our former colonel sitting here, Kirkwood, who worked with us on seeing some of those shifts and change, that we talking to some of those young people. One of those young boys is now a police officer whose daddy was a gang member in Fraser, who we took in, right? So how we look at this long term is something that I pray that your office are intentional with those individuals who going to have that fight, because it's a hard fight to get policy people who need a right now Band-Aid to really address those deep-rooted issues. And that we're, again, that is almost like a can kick down the road. We'll deal with it later, but if we're not changing that environment now, we're going to deal with it for sure.
Absolutely.
You have anything to add to that office? Anybody had anything to add to the Violence Intervention Office? A question? Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. 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 So I want to say, thank you, Colonel. I just want to say too, I thank you. I did receive some of the information, like where you talk about when you look at Baltimore and some of these other cities, how they actually put money into the line item for this type of work, right? Sadly, we're waiting on grants, which we're seeing a lot of that not coming, but we do know the feds is coming. And if we're not intentional to say, what are we doing right now? What are we willing to put our skin in the game to make sure that violent interrupters, and you know, and I heard them, we was at Austin Peay Station, where they talk about they are some of the first responders in many of these cases, talking to individuals, seeing the murders, and I talk about it often on this body, being that 14, 15-year-old, seeing my friend killed in front of me, but they got to take this home with them with no health insurance and nothing to help them deal with what they deal with, and we expect for them to go right back, just do your job and be happy. And those things, we got to be more, I think, have more empathy around that, because we're asking these individuals to go out there and put their life on the line and got to return to that same neighborhood, and people suspecting they're working with government and all these other factors that make it hard to do this work. We weren't afraid to show that we was working with the police, because we knew that community police relationship was helping many of those kids stay out of jail. And that's what I got from a lot of the parents and other folks in the neighborhood, like, man, you helped him, and now he's getting himself straight, right? And we need to see that more examples like that. So appreciate y'all, the work that you all are doing, and I'm gonna capture more if you all can email me some more information on that. I wanna make sure we get it to all the commissioners as well. Director Bromley, we ready for you.
Commissioner Sandy Bromley, Division of Community Services. Commissioner Caswell, did I hear you say that you wanted to end at 2:30?
Huh?
Did I hear you say that?
Yeah. So I
Okay.
know yours is.
So what I'm going to do is not do my whole PowerPoint.
We don't have to. Commissioner Wright is here now. I was about, he can keep it kind of going.
Well,
I just have to.
I'm going to shorten. I'm just not going to do my, LaCree, don't worry about it, hun. I'm just not going to do my PowerPoint. I'm going to speak from the heart,
Okay.
if that's okay with y'all
Yeah,
today.
yeah, and then we can get.
And then, yeah, I mean, I can send it to you later, so it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, we don't have to end at 2:30, like, let's say 2:40.
It's okay, it's okay. I mean,
Commissioner Wright is still here to 3 o'clock if he needs
all
to.
right,
Right?
he'll be tired of hearing me from me anyway. So thank you so much for letting me speak a little bit today around victim services as a whole. Really excited Megan Galtney's here. She's our new Deputy Director of Justice Programs for the Division of Community Services. And obviously you all have met all of my other fellow, like, amazing coworkers. So just glad to be here with some really awesome people. Okay, so what I love about what Tamika just did is obviously I did my job right in training these folks because she talked about victim services as an essential part of community violence intervention. I think it's something that I've been in victim services for 25 years. I know I started when I was 10, that's fine. But I've been in this field for a very long time, and a lot of times people think victim service people are hand holders, they pat us on our heads. I've had defense attorneys spit on me. It's not a very glamorous job. However, I believe very passionately that victim services is violence prevention. If we do our job right and we heal people that have been impacted by some of the worst things you can imagine, one human doing to another human, if we do our job right and heal that trauma, that person is less likely to go back out and hurt somebody else, and they're also less likely to be re-victimized. We know one of the biggest factors for being victimized again, or biggest factors for offending again, is being a victim of crime in the first place. So we have to do our job really well for victims of crime. In this community, we have very little victim services, but we do have some really great victim service options. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about sort of a big picture, and then I'm going to close with domestic violence in particular, because there's been a lot of changes in our community over the last few months. So generally, big picture, and this is not inclusive of everybody, but for anything sexual violence, you're going to go to the Shelby County Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center. That is a government entity under the Division of Community Services. However, it is community-based victim services. So what do I mean by that? Even though it's a government agency, it's not affiliated with the criminal justice system. You do not have to report to law enforcement. You do not have to go forward with prosecution of the case. You can go get victim services regardless of whether you even want to talk to law enforcement ever. And we really want to get the word out about that. Particularly, you guys probably heard and back from 2013, and it's unfortunately still in the wind these days, is the backlog of rape kits, right? So everyone's heard about the backlog of rape kits. No one's heard that we're caught up on the backlog of rape kits. We are still, of course, prosecuting those cases because DNA evidence gets better and better every year, so we're finding more offenders, but we are caught up. We are, the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center runs a 24/7, 365 rape crisis center. We are one of the oldest in the country. 1975 is when we started. We're at our 50-year anniversary. And we were just declared a center of excellence in the country, one of 4 across the country. So have really amazing forensic nurses and victim advocates who are there, like I said, 24/7, 365. Anytime a victim wants to come for a forensic exam, it's a full medical exam for a victim of sexual violence. That includes STI testing, and includes prophylactic medicine, anything that they may need. And that's just the start of their healing journey. We stay with them if they continue with a criminal case, if they choose not to, whatever, we stick with that victim through the process. So that's sexual violence. Human trafficking, the first place to go always is Restore Corps. It's a nonprofit organization. There are lots of others like Thistle and Bee, and I think A Way Out is another one. There's several other nonprofits, but Restore Corps is a single point of entry. So you always want to start there for human trafficking. They're a really great organization. Violent crime, also at the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center. So homicide and any kind of crime, whatever, goes to the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center. Okay, so I should just say that broadly. But we can help folks with victim compensation, which is a state-run program for reimbursement for any kind of expenses related to your victimization. There's very clear criteria though, so it's not like, I think a lot of people come to us and say, my car was smashed in or something like that. I need help getting a new glass windshield or something like that. we can't do that, the state can't do that, because the state requires for their victim compensation, they require physical injury. So unfortunately, a lot of people get upset and frustrated about that idea. We understand, without insurance, it's really hard to replace. That's why you see a lot of cars looking the way they do in our community. Anyway, so that's violent crime. I incorporate the hospital violence intervention programs in our violent crime victim services, because that's really what they are, but they are very immediate victim services. So at both Le Bonheur and Regional One Health, hospital violence intervention programs meet victims immediately after the gunshots, really try to change their mindset early. What we know this about domestic violence too, the earlier we can get to a victim after the crime, the more likely they are to receive the help and then continue on their path towards healing, instead of going back to the life they've had before, whether that's a violent relationship or a violent community. So hospital violence intervention programs are just amazing help. The other thing that's great about our HVIPs is that they refer to the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center to follow up after. So even as the patient gets out of the hospital, they're still able to follow up with trauma counseling or whatever else they may need later. Let's see, child abuse, so child sex abuse and severe physical abuse is at the Memphis Child Advocacy Center. Memphis Child Advocacy Center is a nonprofit organization, and they also operate like a co-located service center similar to something else I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Our Child Advocacy Center, the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center is the nurses at the Child Advocacy Center, but there's also law enforcement there, there's trauma counselors as well, forensic interviews, so really great organization, Child Advocacy Center. And then who else am I missing? Big picture. Yes, so our specific population, thank you, hon. Can you go here, just make sure I'm not missing anybody huge. Our specific population people, so Casa Luz is for Hispanic and Latinx victims of both domestic violence and sexual violence. They do a really great job with those folks. We have Hope House, which works with victims of crime who are also living with HIV. They have a specialty project on that. And then I'm gonna talk about her in just a second, perfect. Okay, the YWCA of Greater Memphis is our only emergency domestic violence shelter. When I say only emergency, I mean standalone, freestanding, 24/7, 365. A lot of people say they do emergency housing in our community, but it's very limited, and so it just be really difficult for people calling around. So the YWCA is always the first call to make to try to, if we're looking for emergency shelter. And then, so to speak about domestic violence, thank you. To speak about domestic violence and sort of where we're headed. So many of you all may have heard that in early March, the Family Safety Center, which was a nonprofit organization, closed down abruptly. They closed their doors abruptly March 5th or 6th. I should remember this. It was a really monumental day in our lives. March 5th at 11 a.m., I believe we got the phone call. Anyway, so they closed their doors abruptly, and the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center has had to immediately take on those services. Since that day, it's been quite an adjustment to try to take on additional services with no additional staff. In fact, Megan is serving as interim director of the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center, and she just told me, well, we just went through some numbers, and we have tripled the numbers of victims of domestic violence we've served at CVRCC since February. And we're actually on track this month to quadruple. So February, we served 70. So it used to be, right, so it used to be that if you were a family violence victim, you would go to the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center. If you were intimate partner violence, you would go to the Family Safety Center. Now everyone's coming together. That's why I'm saying that we've tripled. So we were, in February, we served 75 victims. March, 285, 293 in April, and we're on track for roughly 350 plus in this month. So really have just completely changed the way we do things at CVRCC. We've had to pull people off homicide and other groups in order to be able to help out and pitch in. So what I am working on now is getting them some additional funding so that we can actually increase the staff for CVRCC to be able to actually provide these services. So that's one thing. The second thing that Shelby County is working towards is creating a new family justice center. So the Family Safety Center was the name of a family justice center. And the Family Justice Center is the model. It's an evidence-based model from California originally, but it's everywhere across the country. I actually ran one in Fairfax, Virginia. It's essentially a co-located service center, one-stop shop for victims of domestic violence. So Shelby County Division of Community Services will be starting a different entity. So it's not the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center. It will actually be a different department under our division that will be the Family Justice Center department. The reason being is the Family Justice Center is really only supposed to be the backbone organization. We're not supposed to be competing as services. So it's just going to be a site director and some people to answer the phones. That's really it to start. And then the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center will be there as the victim service provider. Shelby County DA's office, MPD, Sheriff's office, right? All these people will co-locate it in this backbone organization. So that's what we're working on right now. If anybody wants to just find me I don't know number of acres. I said an elementary school. I really want an old elementary school. I want an entire campus for this thing, okay? So if anybody wants to donate like all this space and beautiful place for victims and their kids to be able to come, I want a daycare, I can give you the drawing that I did. It's a beautiful drawing. Anyway, so if anybody just magically wants us to chip in, we're working with the city of Memphis, hopefully trying to get some funding that they had previously given to the Family Safety Center, get that in their budget for next year for this Family Justice Center, and then working with the state of Tennessee to get a little bit of additional funds for that. But other than that, we're going to have to figure out another way to raise money for this moving forward, because at the same time all of this happened, several of our programs received federal funding cuts. And so people may not realize this about our division, but our Division of Community Services is 80% grant funded. And so I don't think people realize how much local government relies on the feds, and we're gonna be hurting in the next couple of years unless something else happens.
Director, I appreciate all you do and all the office do. I know that you carry a lot of hats to that. So when you look at the federal piece, is some of that we need to, as a commission, be sending our lobbyists up there, who's already there, knocking on those doors saying this don't need to be cut because of this type of impact? Is it that any of that we can make the cases? I know Aging Commission, I heard some dollars being cut over there when it comes to our seniors. So what can we do as a body? One. Two, even with, I know you said you're putting in for some ads for that family safety, the people who left out with the family safety, is that coming to this body, or is it federal? Is it some grants that you're applying for to get that?
Sandy Bromley Division of Community Services, so it's all the above. Yeah. We're asking for the same amount that the city of Memphis gave the nonprofit last year. We're asking them to give it to us this year, or next year, I should say, fiscal year 26. So we're asking funding from the city. We've asked for funding from the county. So that will come in front of you. Just as, by the way, the joint office is finally going to have a line item in front of you as well. So be looking for that. And then federal grants. Yeah, federal and state grants. So all of the above. It's just going to be a braided funding.
Yeah. All right. And I know that also the office of the district connectors is under your office, and if any kind of way that they're playing into this and getting the word out. I just want to say I was at a meeting the other day, and I had this awesome commissioner out of Lakeland, Tennessee. I don't know, one of my fellow commissioners, he oversees Lakeland, and she just bragged on how this commissioner, how going to one of the meetings the other day and hearing the work of the, she said, I want to be a champion for that. I said, make sure you call your commissioner and tell him that. But because I know that, again, this office of the district connector is something new. And people want to compare it to a health department that's been around for 100 plus years with 900 employees, $80 million budget. But there is, again, no knock to the health department and the great work that Dr. Taylor and her team is doing. But when you hear from people that's on the ground and saying that now we feel like government is listening to us, right? Because we're there in those spaces. I think it's important to the long game that we're looking to try to tackle, which you won't see all that. So if you can just speak to that, how these district connectors, even talking with some of these groups around some of that work that's needing to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandy Bromley Division of Community Services. So Our District Connector program has really opened our eyes as the Division of Community Services in how many areas of this county we've not been reaching. One in particular is our suburban areas. So when you mentioned Lakeland, I mean, that's true. All of our municipalities, I think, we've ignored. I can speak for myself as the director of the Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center previously. 95% of the clients we serve are City of Memphis clients. We did our outreach in the City of Memphis. That's really where we lived. And we've failed, I think, in some ways in the past to reach our municipalities in the way we could have. So that's really opened our eyes to that. And so we are all being a lot more intentional about that. The other beautiful thing about the District Connector program you mentioned, the division is not, our division of community services is only 276 employees. So we are nowhere near as big and vast and well-funded as the health department is, which, like you said, they do amazing work. They have amazing epidemiologists who just created that report for you all. Our District Connector program is a 15-person program, right? So we have to make sure we're comparing apples to apples when we're comparing those two. But the beautiful thing about the District Connector program is it's getting us into the community, and it's getting residents to actually know about us. So when I say us, I mean all of our services, not just the Division of Community Services, but, you know, DeAndre and Office of Reentry, or the Joint Office, or the Health Department for that matter, right? We are bringing those government people into our community conversations because, government kind of sat, and us too, I own this, kind of sat back and wait for people to come to us.
Yeah.
We need to go to them more.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Wright, you have something?
Gosh, there's just so much that we could follow up on, but I just, I'm thinking about when she talks about the Family Safety Center closing, and I was just Googling to remind myself, about the Boys and Girls Clubs that I think 9 of them had to close recently. It does seem like a very perilous time that people are losing these grants, and as well as local funding, and we do have to find some way to pick up the pieces, Commissioner. And one thing I want to say on the Joint Office was, or any of you, it's budget season, and so those kinds of things we need to know. I'd love to know what the full need is, and what more we can do as a county on some of those areas. It's great. I think it's great that the FBI wants to bring help. But let's show that, if you want to come help us, let's show you the true need. And so that's something I'll be bringing, Commissioner, is a resolution, kind of putting that into numbers. But I think the more numbers I can get, the better case we can make to, okay, come, bring your staff, bring your field agents, but bring some resources too. We need the help. There was more, but I've lost my train of thought.
And I think that's right on. I think the Department of Justice need to know that some of that prevention intervention stuff would help on the front end, that we wouldn't need so many resources on the back end. So again, I know, many in my district, I just had a district meeting the other day, welcome the fact they've been living in fear with some of this violent crime. 7 killings in 1 week in our neighborhood community is not going to fit well. And we got to get those individuals off our street. I mean, if that's the target, let's get them off our street. At the same time, then how do we be intentional with what Blue Community do, Kirkwood? And I know Colonel Kirkwood going to come back to talk about some of the work he's doing with clergy and helping really to build some of that capacity out, taking that model, what we did and with Austin Peace Station when he was there, and putting it in all 9 police precincts, and how that's going to bring collective impact work together to see some reduction. And again, that's long work. And that's some of the work that many of you all are doing, but I really see a correlation of bringing those things marrying, because I said it in one of my stakeholder meetings, is that right now, the state would give the police money to say they're going to do prevention work, but they wouldn't give it to the community organization. So if that's how they're going to do it, it's good to have somebody who know that it can work when you're working with community. And so, again, I'm excited about all of those pieces coming together and looking forward to where we go from here. Well, one of the things is, like I said, I'm going to push out to you all a executive summary and to share with Commissioner Wright where I seen in part some of the things when you talk about reentry, when you talk about intervention and prevention type work, when you talk about collective impact and community work that we can be doing and focusing on. And hopefully, like I said, we can pull some things together as we talk about this budget, that we need to do something now. I think I believe, we can't wait till next year, next budget. I think we got to do something now. And I'm excited that some of these churches, about 10, has already came together. They already purchasing uniforms, doing things to get almost 1,000 young people, going to be running a summer league. And thankfully, after the meeting, I met with Mira Young and then Sister Valerie and her team and Vera Harris, that these churches came together. They got the MOUs together, everything, and already identified 500 youth that's not going to be on some type of team and some type of summer camp to be working with. We're going to identify others once we really push it out there. But looking for support from our city and county right now to address this summer. And the league is going to run Friday, Saturday, Sundays, but from 8-year-olds to 15-year-olds in the morning time, and then 16-year-old to 28-year-old from 8 at night to midnight, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. And so the leader, Pastor Leon John with Light at Night, is leading some of their work to work with all these churches citywide for the nighttime. And Pastor Terrell Munger with One Glory is working with the pastors on the daytime. And so excited about that unity and that meeting, and got a meeting coming up on the 29th. I get that out to you all too. That's for anybody that want to volunteer. We're asking for mentor coaches and lay people to come in who can stand in the gap with these individual young people and their families throughout this summer. I shared this in the meeting Monday, just last Saturday, Light at Night, and I appreciate Colonel Kirkwood and his team. Them came together with 40 young men who was going to Light at Night basketball, got their forklift certification. They left Friday night, midnight, came back. That's get a hand. Got their forklift certification, and we already have seen some of them who have went from $10 an hour, they got up to $20-some an hour now because they got a certification, their forklift certification. So use basketball, but it was intentional to get them to trust us for other opportunities that's there. So those are the type of things we're going to have to continue to do. And I'm sorry, I know Commissioner Wright can still take it on, but did anyone had anything else to add before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I just want to say, this is a great thing that we do every month, and I see that the work that's being done is starting to pay off in our communities. I think, though, that we spotlight a lot of the resources and the funding towards things that occur after, right? And we're not doing much on the front end to prevent those things. And so what I've done with a couple other businesses in the community is shed a spotlight on those kids and those individuals that are doing work and doing awesome things and rewarding them on the front end. I think that is just as contagious as you spoke about, Director Brown, when it comes to what people see done, they follow. And so what we've done over the past few months is just take kids to a baseball game. And you find that those parents haven't been to a baseball game either. And we talk about activities that are available within our communities, but we don't spotlight those, like a Redbirds game, like going to the zoo. So we have to change that narrative, and we are in a position to change that narrative collectively by investing into those opportunities. On June 13th, I know Commissioner Caswell will be there, but we identified 40 kids who graduated from high school and are going to the next level, whether that's trade, military, or college, and we're taking them to a 5-star restaurant so they can enjoy a meal and understand how it looks to be celebrated, right? Because we generally, I know my parents did, when I did good, it was like, that's what you're supposed to do. And then when you do something bad, it's like, now you're on punishment. But like, well, what's the reward for doing good? And so we find that when you do that for youth and young people in our communities, and we show them that we appreciate them and that we do see them doing the good work, I think that kids on the other side that need the resources may lean toward that way to receive some of those rewards. So that's just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Anyone else? We can keep talking, even though the chairman has left the building now.
DeAndre Brown, Shelby County Officer of Entry. I have more of a request. I know we've heard a few times in several meetings that there's so many free available jobs in Shelby County. and we cannot locate those jobs. So if anyone knows where those jobs lie, please let our office know so we can get some people rapidly enrolled and engaged and working. One of the things that I know really helps to reduce crime is work, giving someone an alternative way of living. So we need to find those opportunities. I don't care if they're temporary right now. We just need things we can get people to so we can get them off the street. So if you have any of those resources, please let us know.
Valerie Matthews, the Joint Office Commissioner, just maybe one question. I would like to hear, I know time is of the essence, but I'd like to hear about the new transitional housing that the Office of Reentry has, if you don't mind sharing.
DeAndre Brown, Officer of Entry. We're almost open. We've gotten the keys, but we will house 3 individuals that are coming from Shelby County Division of Correction. They will, the plan is to have them actively enrolled in employment, releasing the week of arriving into the space. They'll have up to 6 months, 90 days to 6 months to live in the space to get themselves together. Hopefully, it'll take less than 6 months to get them straight because we're going to get people in that are already actively enrolled in programming and have a better chance of success. We want to have a high turnover rate, but we do know that housing is an impediment. And if we can remove that impediment, we believe that we have opportunity to create other pathways. And it's working in tangentially with the grant we received from the federal government that's going to give us housing vouchers that will allow us to provide 20 spaces in another space that allows up to, so there'll be about 23 people at once to have housing. And while that may seem may not seem like a lot of people, when you talk there's only 1% of the population committing all the crime, when you take 23 of those people and give them something positive to do, you've put a real dent in it. And when they become positive citizens and become positive role models, we then begin to shift that culture that I talked about and begin to get a new morality that it encourages individuals to do the right thing.
Director Brown, Maria Ceja, Bilingual Community Engagement Manager, General Sessions Court Clerk's Office. The General Sessions Court Clerk's Office is hiring. So, yeah, you can look on the Shelby County career portal. I can show it to you when we leave here. But yeah, we're hiring.
DeAndre Brown, Officer of Entry. I'll be sending you an email this afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask Director, is there someone, is there a person or an entity that is really spearheading an effort to ensure that that those job opportunities are available to people with a record? I know in the county we've done Ban the Box and Fair Chance to Serve, but I don't know if there's anything community-wide. Is there an effort?
DeAndre Brown, Shelby County Officer of Entry. We've been we've been working with the chamber, but we haven't asked a specific question. So this came to me, I was in DC a few days ago, and when I was sitting in training, it occurred to me that we have not asked where the jobs are. So I think now moving forward, one of my tasks to do this next week is to reach out to Sister Howell at the chamber and see if she can point us in that direction. We've been going on tours to companies to get to help them understand the value of second chance hiring, but we really haven't taken a bit deeper dive to find out where those opportunities lie. And another thing I'm thinking of doing is talking to temporary agencies, not the agency itself, but allowing us to talk to the people that have the contracts with them to change their mindset. So if they would be willing, the temporary agency has a higher rate of return, and it's easier for them to place people.
Will Richardson, WR Community Services. One of the things that I found in the line of work that I'm in with home health care is that Medicaid has changed a lot of their background restrictions. And so we need to talk about that. I know we're able to hire people who have not so perfect record up under certain stipulations. So I'd like to talk to you about that. And what I see that being done is that, one, we're providing employment for someone, right? But we're also allowing people to take care of other people. And I think that that's the most rewarding job that you can have. And so let's talk about that afterwards.
Kirkwood. In my work with workforce development with the Chamber and Tennessee Jobs, they have a list of felony-friendly companies that accept felons. Also, when it comes to construction, most construction jobs, most of those are felony-friendly, and it's easy to get in. One of the requirements, if you can get your guys on the front end, OSHA 10 certified, That's one of the things they want them to have on the ground. If they come on the ground with OSHA 10 certification, they can almost go in with no understanding of anything. So, you know, the chamber has a lot of connections on that, and it is a lot of felony-friendly companies out there. 'Cause I've gotten a lot of felony guys. Even Blue Oval was felony-friendly. I got quite a few felons jobs out of Blue Oval.
Okay. Who else? Anyone else? Director Bromley, do you feel neglected? We didn't really follow up on your heartfelt message, but there was a lot there.
Sandy Bromley, Division of Community Services. I think you got the memo that budget is really important at this moment. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll just, yeah. Thank you for asking for numbers.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us again. Happy birthday to our chair and to the city of Memphis, and just thank you so much for all you do and for being part of this today. That concludes this meeting.